Hello and welcome. We are at the digital studios at Cape Town Conversations 2024. We are here to discuss what Trump 2.0 would mean for Europe and the larger transatlantic partnership between the US and the Europe. So at this time of turbulence and expected transactionalism in Trump 2.0, there are a lot of questions at hand. Is Europe ready? I mean, the kind of economic and political challenges Europe is facing domestically with the issues around cost of energy, issues around cost of living. Would Europe be able to rise up to the challenge of what comes with Trump transactionalism, what comes with putting uncertainty in a lot of time-tested and tried and tested agreements between the two partners over a long period of time? Can Germany and France, which are the two most influential economies of Europe, can they take others along in Europe to rise up to the challenge of a possible Trump-led US receding or withdrawal from some of the theaters in the coming times? With me, I have a two-time former member of parliament from Slovenia, Andrej, and Ana Miguel dos Santos, former member of parliament of Portugal and European Parliament, to discuss this entire thing. So first, I'll just come to Ana. Ana, just after Trump's victory, the current French president talked about the fact that Trump has been voted to by the American people to do what American people expect him to do. The question he put was more inwards. He talked about the fact whether European Parliament and the European lawmakers and Europe itself is actually ready to do what is needed to do for protecting the interests of the European people. Do you think Europe is ready at this time?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Also to you, good afternoon. I think that Europe needs to be prepared. Otherwise, it doesn't have another chance, because we are always waiting for the other's support. We need to be more committed with ourselves. And I have a phrase that I don't know if it's very well known here, but in Portugal we have a common phrase to describe, to characterize this kind of thing. So Europe needs to lace up its shoes. Europe needs to make their own way without waiting to find out who will be the next leader of USA. This is not the point. Europe needs to win autonomy, strategic autonomy, and needs to take the responsibility for their own future. Because we are always expecting that the others came to solve our problems. No, we need to be autonomous, and we need to be focused on what we want for us. And we can build that. We are not countries with a small history. We came with an old history. We rebuild ourselves. So I'm a positive person, so I truly believe, and I think this is a big challenge. I think that Trump brings, instead of bringing uncertainty, Trump brings certainty. Because if you look, it was with Biden that came uncertainty. Biden didn't change anything that was built by or decided by Trump. So it was with Biden administration that the war in Ukraine starts. We need to remind the end of the mission in Afghanistan. It was not very good. So I'm saying that I believe in the future. I believe in politics, but we need more action instead of beautiful and poetical speeches. People are waiting for that, and European people and citizens are waiting for action. They don't want more speeches and more promises.
So what speeches and promises have you seen since Trump's victory in your country?
Not so much. I only learned and read and heard to some skepticism or some, a lot of people were worried, especially in the field of media and high representatives in the politics. But maybe they can be worried because they know that they didn't do their homework. Because today we are not prepared. I, as a representative of the young generation, I'm 34, but still I think I'm quite young. When we joined EU,
so yes, perfect.
Perfect. When we joined EU, We were all full of optimism, happy, proud. If I ask my colleagues what they think about EU today, they say that's just one bureaucratic system with 2 seats in Strasbourg and Brussels. And also in our country, we like to say, sometimes we had in Yugoslavia Belgrade that dictated us how to live and how to survive. Today we have Strasbourg and Brussels. And we in Europe, we are too much teaching and moralizing to other leaders and the world and nations how they should behave and live, you know. We are talking 90% about things that are not so important. The main 3 topics I think that are economy, security, and health of our citizens. Yeah. And on that 3 fields, I'm deeply sorry, but until today we failed. Even with the new European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, you know, I think I'm quite skeptical because the same old story happened when the 2 biggest parties kissed each other and they said we will keep the good jobs and that's our interest.
You just mentioned security, and I'll ask you on security. Like US security umbrella, US guidance on security for Europe in the region and generally wider economic interest has been key since 1940, since after the World War. Do you think the time has now come with the kind of rhetoric that you see from Trump, the rise of China and the challenge that it poses to Europe and even to the US, for Europe to rise up? But what are the key hindrances or what are the key challenges that you see when it comes to addressing the security issue? And do you think that the alliance that you have with the US, the security alliance that you have with the US, it would also need to undergo some sort of change going forward?
No, because the US always did what they promised and what they said. The problem is on our side. We have only 8 member states of EU that are also members of NATO that made their promise true, and the other countries they didn't. You know, I also coming from Slovenia, where we spent I think 1% only or 1.5 of GDP. We should spend 2%. Okay, now these things are going up, but we also have to be rational and ask our leaders, where are we spending that money? And we are more and more spending on the new agencies, bureaucrats. And here is also one important thing that I think we are very different to United States. They are innovating, they are making successful stories. And we in Europe, we are just regulating and telling people what is not allowed. And until we will not change that mindset, I think there is bad times ahead of us.
He talked about increasing the defense spending for them to about 2%. Do you think, given the current economic state that you have, we've seen German economy taking hit because of the rising energy prices and also issues around market access over China. And then you have similar cost of living crisis in other countries because we've seen energy prices fluctuate and in many cases increase manyfold because of the conflict in Ukraine, because of the Russian war in Ukraine. Increasing defense expenditure, do you think it is something that's feasible for politicians? Because how will you be able to sell it to your audiences, to your voters who actually are looking for governments to address housing issues, issues around inflation? How do you see that happen?
This is a big challenge. First, we need to stop demonizing security issues. We are always talking about security as a thing like, we don't like security. You are a demon if you speak about security. You are a fascist. You are from extreme right, or, you know, we are always demonizing. We need to stop putting security in these issues, because security is about the human survivance, is related with that. So every human being appreciates security, and security is also a fundamental right. So we need to change our political speech especially in Europe, because in democracies it's very difficult sometimes to speak about the raising of security, and when we speak about these issues, is a problem. Then we need to make options. This is how we deal. We need to know where we are spending our money instead of putting so much rules in, so much bureaucratical rules. If we start to analyze the price of bureaucracy, and when I say price, I say the evaluation of the price and the benefits that we are receiving when we are applying a rule, we will conclude that it's better to not put that rule, because you are not improving anything or defending anything. So we need to do options, answering to your question. We need to make options, and we need to explain citizens where do we need to spend our money. And there are another, just to finish this idea, there is a double use of security. You don't need only to spend money. You need to educate your citizens to become more resilient, to become more prepared for adversities and for insecurity. So this is a changing of paradigm.
So in a way, just picking a point, you're talking about cutting bureaucracy and cutting a lot of regulations that come in a way of innovation and all. So you are, in some senses, talking the language that Donald Trump is talking in the US about cutting bureaucracy and cutting...
It's not about Donald Trump's speech. This is a wrong way of posing this. Bureaucracy is very criticized in Europe for many leaders. The leader of my country, everyone speak about the excess of bureaucracy. I, as a member of the European Parliament, I see Ursula von der Leyen, I saw Roberta Metsola, everyone saying that we need to cut bureaucracy.
So now coming to one point, like what exactly do you think, when Trump takes charge, what exactly do you think Europe can offer Trump so as to ensure that the security cooperation and the ties between Europe and the US remain? And I mean, because he's already talking about extra taxation, he's talking about tariffs on even countries like Canada, he's talked about, of course, China will be there. China is a key market for Europe, has been a key market for Europe.
We need to be adults, okay? We need to grow up, okay? This is the moment for us to take options like adults and not like childs. We are always complaining. We are always pointing our fingers to the others. Stop with this. We need to die. For example, Portugal is one of the founding fathers of NATO. So we are the first country to America in Europe. So we need to maintain dialogue with Europe, but also with Africa, also with every countries. So we need to change our approach to the other, and we need to change our speech. We need to build relationships instead of pointing fingers. Oh, Trump is the worst nightmare. No, we need the umbrella of United States for now. Otherwise, Europe couldn't deal with this war.
So, talking about issues of trade, which will now dominate when Trump takes charge. He's going to talk about tariffs and trade. For Europe generally, do you think this is the moment for Europe to now look more seriously at some of the other markets and other middle powers or countries like Indonesia, like Brazil, like South Africa, in terms of closer cooperation economically, in terms of expanding their options? Because Europe so far, for at least for some of the key countries, including India, has not really had that kind of a deep penetration or partnership. It's mostly relied on the Chinese market. It's relied on a US security umbrella. And then till the conflict in Ukraine, Russia was like a key source for efficient energy, like cheap energy for...
We still, in Europe, we still live like we are in past century, not in this year. And we still have that feeling that everything is fine or will be fine and we don't have to do something. But first we will have to look ourselves in the mirror, do our homework, and if Trump is a businessman, as we know, we will have to make deal with him, He shouldn't say to us, you are fired, like he liked to say in some shows, but we have to be We have to build on a global levels also, but on realistic political economics development and relations. And that can be also only done if there are two partners and that they are both doing what they promise. We did not do that for past 20, 30 years. We have to be honest, and we have to ask our leaders. But still, if we are talking how to raise our voice or level or growth, of Europe, sometimes, or decades ago, our GDP meant 30% of world's GDP together. Today, we are between 15 and 17. So we can ask what's wrong, because we are too much progressing on some fields that we shouldn't, and we are killing our industry. We are putting a lot of regulations, and on other side, we have a lot of countries that want to be our members, but Germany and France and some other countries, they say we don't need new members. But I think if we want to grow, because population of Europe and markets are, of course, going down, not up, we have to put process of enlargement of European Union up. Western Balkans is waiting, Republic of Moldova is waiting, and some other countries. And until we'll have two big players in Europe that can say no, then we will also have to think how to repair that, I would say.
You've talked about all the things that Europe needs to do. Now specifics, talking about specifics in terms of trade, in terms of security, and most importantly in terms of announcing its own strategic stand on key issues, on key developments that are happening in the world, whether it comes to geopolitical competition, whether it comes to AI, whether it comes to trade, whether it comes to key supply chains, securing key supply chains. What can Europe do to put its own stand and put its own interests independent of what the US thinks or what anybody else thinks? And what are the changes that you think are required?
First, I think we have to restart our industry. Of course, we are all for a green environment, but not everything is CO2. We have to ask ourselves what air are we breathing, what water are we drinking, what food were we eating from which floors, That's also a very important question. We are talking about green, not only CO2 and such a thing. So first, we have to restart our industry. Second, we have to start investing in security. That depends from country to country, but I'm living in Slovenia. We had a lot of migrant issues. And I'm not now extremist if I say that they did a lot of bad things in our country, And I think that it's our job to protect our people. And on the third way, I would say we should be more self-sufficient, We should put a lot of more money into research investment and also getting some raw materials, minerals, food, water. And I think that with these things, we can offer a lot to our partners, who I think will still be the main partner, US, but we should also open our eyes on other countries.
Just same question to you, just one added point on this. Do you think Europe can do this as a whole, together as an entity, or it would be individual countries driving this thing? Can there be a consensus on all of this? And same question for you.
I'm totally agree with my friend here. I'm just saying that we need to restore credibility, unity, because we need to stop to thinking all about our individual interests. Otherwise, we will not have an European Union. Union means unity. Second, strategic autonomy. We need to be more autonomous, and for that we need a new industrial revolution. We need to be more autonomous. We need to be more consciousness. We need to be more open, and we need to act more. People, the citizens need. Because with this credibility, we need to have actions and to feel that we are changing people's lives. Otherwise, we will lose.
So in a summary of sorts, what I understand from two young former parliamentarians from Europe is that Europe, in order to announce itself as a player on the world stage, has to look inwards and address a lot of issues that it has failed to address over the last 2 to 3 decades. And you were talking about re-energizing the local industry, you were talking about investing in military and security issues. You were talking about having an open and frank discussion on some of these issues, which probably have not had the kind of attention that they require. And this is how you build on unity. You've talked about unity because for European Union's unity and credibility depends on having these discussions and addressing these discussions.
Let me summarize this in one phrase. We need to take responsibility on our own future.
So in order to take responsibility on your own future, you need to do all of this. And one can just hope that with Trump in office is the trigger enough for Europe to get its act together and do all of these things that are required.